Majority Report with Sam Cedar, where every day's Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday, Tuesday, Casual Tuesday, Wednesday, Casual Hump Day, Thursday, Casual Thurs, that's what we call it, and Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Cedar.
It is Friday, June 26, 2020. My name is Sam Cedar. This is the five-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps and steps and steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Heather Parton, or Digby, from the blog Hullabaloo and the website salon.com. Also on the program, from some cartoons, Jon Benjamin. Whatever. Also, Texas walks it back. Shutting the bars again as coronavirus surges across the Southwest. The White House is even, for whatever reason, having one of those task force press conferences today, even though they had more or less disbanded the task force. Supreme Court slams the door on asylum seekers. Democrats pass a police reform bill in the House, and a vote today will happen on D.C. statehood. Donald Trump tries again to get the Supreme Court to overturn the Affordable Care Act, and multiple studies show conservative media drives an increase in coronavirus infections. Meanwhile, it's reported Bill Barr wanted Berman out at the Southern District of New York because he refused to undercut Michael Cohen's conviction. Joe Biden lead widening across both swing and now some reddish states. 1/3 of Black Americans now know someone who has died of COVID-19. And the Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison suing Exxon, Koch, and the American Petroleum Institute for climate change fraud. All this and more on today's program, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. It is Casual Friday. I am wearing my soft-colored shirt. Glad you could make it. We should have some fun today. As well, I should say this. Let me start off by saying this, and we're going to do some shows, hopefully in the near term, on the prospect of returning to school in September and how people are going to go about doing that, whether it's elementary school, high school, higher education, and the failure of the leadership of our federal government and Betsy DeVos and to do anything to make this transition or to deal with the virus in any way to make it easier for students, other than I think she's subsidizing private schools. I say this because today, for many students around the country, is the last day of school. And I know this because it is the official last day of school for my daughter and my son, Saul. And I wanted to do a special message for those elementary school kids, and particularly Saul Cedar, to congratulate them on finishing their first grade. Now, there's some question as to whether they are now second graders, but I don't think you'd say that you're a no grader. So, yes, my son Saul is now a second grader, and I want to give him congratulations. Listen, it was very difficult particularly for elementary school kids to finish out the school year. Very difficult. Parents working. They're not, doing as much as we would want to help the kids. So the kids had to do a lot of stuff on their own. Very difficult, very challenging. And so I'm going to give Saul and all elementary school kids a shofar to congratulate them from matriculating, which is another word for saying sort of graduating, but not quite. So Saul, this is for you and for all the other kids out there who have matriculated. There you go. You guys should be very proud of yourself. You worked hard. It was a very tricky situation. And make sure you read books over the summer. That's very important to do. Also, a little more house cleaning here. Our very own Kyle, who has made all of this possible. He has created an amazing tech setup for our show. I don't know if people realize this, but we have a custom built sort of Zoom system that Kyle built. He is working on all sorts of projects. And for any of you who are coders or interested in any of that, keep an eye on what Kyle is doing. But he has a special request. He's doing a lot of phone banking for Jess Scarane in her race against Chris Coons for the Senate seat in Delaware. And you can help out by phone banking. He will hook you up. Email him at kyle@fans.fm. Maybe put in the subject line, phone banking. Jess Scarane would be an immeasurable improvement over Chris Coons. And you can already see the guy is getting a little bit nervous about this. This is why he's talking about the filibuster and whatnot. So check out that. Also, just wanted to say, too, my daughter, who is in high school, has finished out 9th grade. So this one goes out to all the high school students and middle school, but particularly my favorite high school student, that would be Mila Cedar. Mila, good job. Very impressive. Mila has taught herself to sew, to bake. She's exercising on a regular basis. I think she even may have read a couple of pages of a book. So congratulations, Mila. Welcome to 10th grade. Holy cow. All right. So you may have noticed that I am in good spirits. Why? Because I got a good night's sleep last night. How did that happen, you ask? Because that never can happen for you, Sam. It is Sunset Lake CBD, their tincture. Sometimes I go to the 750 mil. Sometimes I go to the 1500 mil. Doesn't matter. Both of them are incredibly effective. I take a little bit less of the 1500 mil. But the Sunset Lake CBD is grown on a farm outside of Burlington, Vermont. It's a farm that started as a dairy farm. They were providing milk for Ben and Jerry's. 2018, they started to diversify. They grow their hemp 100% pesticide free. They only use organic fertilizers. You can go on their website and see their certification, third-party test results for all their products over at sunsetlakecbd.com. They're a great company who their minimum wage, $15 an hour, minimum wage, $15 an hour. They are largely employee owned, majority of the company owned by employees. They sell smokable cannabis, which Matt can talk about in a moment. They do pre-rolls, but if you don't like to smoke, they have the tincture, which I've mentioned. They have coffee infused with CBD. They have topical salves, beeswax and arnica that are good for massaging muscles and joints. And they have gummies. and I got my first try of the gummies. Now, this is going to be a problem for me because they're delicious. And Brendan knows that you can't put sweets around me because I eat too much of them. But check out their gummies. I got the 500 mil, but they now have introduced 100 megagrams, I should say, of their sour bear gummy bears. And it's a great deal in terms of cash per gummy, in terms of cash per CBD. So check that out. Matt, why don't you do your plug for the smokables? Because I know there's skeptics out there, and there's a ton of varieties they have. My sister's into the lifter.
Yeah, I have some lifter right here. It's about gone actually, but they have also product lines I wasn't familiar with. I just got a new stash of special sauce smalls, which are nice little tiny nugs that go right into the grinder easily. So I appreciate that. So a lot of innovation going on up there at Sunset Lake CBD.
And if you go to sunsetlakecbd.com and you put in the offer code left is best, you're going to get 20% off your order. sunsetlakecbd.com, left is best, 20% off your order. Check it out. All right, let's take not quite. So, and I'm going to be talking to Digby about this because it's sort of stunning what's going on in this country in terms of the pandemic. I mean, obviously, we got a lot going on in terms of the DOJ. We'll talk a little bit about the election, and we had the elections this week, but there is an entire political ideology that is intertwined with conspiracy theories and some type of cultural signifier about masks. And in California, I just saw that 25% of the infections in California, and California is now in the midst of an explosion of infections. 25% of those have come in the last 2 weeks. So we've been living with this now for 3.5 months, since the shutdown. 25% of the infections have come in the last 2 weeks. And this clip gives you a sense of why. What number is this, Brandon?
This is number 10.
Number 10. Okay, so this is a compilation of... Oh, is this in Florida?
Yes.
Oh, I thought this was in California. Well, I imagine there's quite a bit about this going on in California as well, actually. It's going all through these states that are exploding. This is in Florida. But I think it gives you an indication of basically what's happening. Because in parts of Southern California, in Orange County, they're not doing masks. They just don't believe in it.
It's Florida West.
What's that? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Here is a compilation of Palm Beach County, Florida residents who are giving their public comments about wearing a mask. It's nuts.
You literally cannot mandate somebody to wear a mask knowing that that mask is killing people. It literally is killing people. And we the people are waking up, and we know what citizen's arrest is because citizen's arrests are already happening. Okay? And every single one of you that are obeying the devil's laws are going to be arrested. And you, doctor, are going to be arrested for crimes against humanity.
The problem with humanity today is ignorance, arrogance, and apathy. Keep taking the road of least resistance. Keep listening to the TV brainwashing you from birth.
And they want to throw God's wonderful breathing system out the door. You're all turning your backs on it.
I really have many question marks about your degrees and what you really know. I'm sorry, ma'am, but I don't think that you are worthy of your credentials. And I would ask suggestively that you go back to school and get educated.
Ask suggestively?
You can ask suggestively. You can also have question marks as to, things that are going on.
Yeah, I get a lot of question marks. This is the dynamic that's happening. I mean, this is, and there is a, this is not just QAnon style. This is like sophisticated anti-vaxxer style stuff that's going on, but it's also a function of like this cultural signification. Here is Oregon, a sheriff in Oregon. They're having, or excuse me, is this Washington State? Sorry.
Yeah, Southwest Washington State, Lewis County.
Southwest Washington State. And Inslee has basically said, we got to do masks. And here is a sheriff. And we're starting to see this a lot with sheriffs. Remember, the stories of of Governor LePage up in Maine. And, there was a lot of these sort of like Tea Party types were going in, the sovereign citizens, saying that it's really the sheriff that has all of the power. The sheriffs have all of the power in these, the counties are the seat of all the power. And they seem to be trying to assert that. And here is this sheriff. I can't find what number this is.
It's 13.
Yeah, number 13. This is Sheriff Robert Snaza in Southwest Washington State. Here's his response to Governor Jay Inslee's mask order.
In case you guys didn't hear, Governor Inslee, in his infinite wisdom, has decided after over 100 and some odd days that we should all wear face masks inside and out. Here's what I say. Don't be a sheep. Yep. Your support is something American. I think you probably know my voice. I'm going to go up and support him. Thanks, Rob. Good to see you again, Rob. It's good to see you. Thank you. Thanks. Hey, how are you doing?
Jesus. Right? I heard Matt say Jesus. We'll talk to Digby about it more, but I mean, this is, it's crazy. First off, I noticed a lot of old people, a lot of older guys,
old people, a lot of gray goatees,
and, that sheriff, he's an elected official, and he's got to, he knows his people. He knows his chickens, as they say. And they're all excited. Like, you're a sheep if you wear a mask. I mean, this is
through Corona, like getting through the depression or something like that. Like, will they be able to, are they hoping to have like a war story for like having a very like comfortable existence their entire lives or something? I just can't get into it. I don't know.
I mean, that's really the question is, what is the inspiration for this? What is driving this? Because it's an outside force, right? And you would imagine that responding to it in some way, they just cannot stand the collective action. It's bizarre. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be talking to Digby from the blog Hullabaloo, or you may know her as Heather Parton from Salon.com. We'll be right back. We are back. Sam Cedar on the Majority Report. On the phone is someone who, even in the midst of a pandemic, deserves her opening song. Do you now have it? You guys have it? Guys?
Matt says he's sharing sound, but it does not seem to be sharing sound.
Who's not? What? Matt? What happened?
I got to do some acapella here, maybe.
Go ahead. Brendan will sing it.
Oh, wait, you couldn't hear that? Sorry, I was playing it just to myself. Sorry.
It looks like Matt has been hitting the CBD again.
I have it right here.
Those gummies are strong, man.
Yeah, 1,000 meg. So what are we doing, Matt? Are you going to play it, or are you just?
Yeah, hold on. Give me just
it's cool, man. It's cool.
Hey, I'm hearing it, even though, it's like in my head. So it's awesome.
Okay, just give me another 10 seconds here.
Oh boy, here we go.
Okay.
This is whoa.
It's Friday.
It is Casual Friday, folks. Everybody's on the brink.
How about it's not here? Sorry.
Are you ready?
I can't share it.
I'm losing it, bro. I'm losing it, bro.
Digby, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I apologize for Matt for not having the song. It's his fault.
I'm losing it, bro.
He's losing it a little bit.
Are you ready for some Digby?
There we go.
There you go.
Yeah. Are you
Matt
ready
was determined.
for some Digby?
There was no way he wasn't going to play that.
Digby, yeah.
I'm losing it, bro.
And a bit of hope.
All right, there we go.
Well worth waiting for.
Yeah, absolutely. Heather Parton, I hope you're well. California, 25% of its total infections have happened in the last 2 weeks.
Yep.
What's going on there?
Well, I can only judge by what I've seen in my own neighborhood. I live in Santa Monica, and I think back. Do you remember? I think it was around Memorial Day. They started to open up California, and there were a bunch of pictures of people lining up. Or no, it was Mother's Day. They were lining up at the flower mart downtown to get flowers for their mothers, and you could see, they're all no social distancing. Everybody was closer together. Well, it's kind of been like that from the moment that they said you could open up. There has been a significant minority of people, if not a majority, who just went, yeah, we're back, baby, and we don't have to worry. And, I saw it in my own neighborhood where people just stopped wearing masks. They had been, and then they just stopped. And I'm thinking, what do you think here? Just because Eric Garcetti, the mayor, says that we can open up here, that means that the virus has disappeared? What, you nuts? But I really think that that's what happened. And, who knows? I mean, we don't know about the protests. There were a lot of that. We don't know yet how significant that was, if at all. I mean, there's some indications one way or the other. And of course, it's restaurants and bars. I mean, the minute they open those up, people raced in crowds, shoulder to shoulder, breathing all over each other for hours. And it just stands to reason that there would be a spike the minute that happens. I mean, I don't pretend to understand this. Now, from what I understand in California, I don't know if people really care about California, but I'll give some detail. The major part of the major spikes have come from just 4 counties, suburban counties in Southern California. It's Orange County, Ventura County, Riverside, and San Bernardino, all of which are conservative counties by comparison to any, it's California, so they're, it's not like it's Alabama or anything, but it's definitely conservative. And Orange County in particular, in fact, they ran off the health commissioner there, the head of the public health agency, with death threats. She's
right.
Been a half a dozen of them that have had to quit because they've been threatened for giving the bad news, killing the messenger. And she was one of them. And so she quit. And I don't know if you saw, there were some hearings. I heard that you played some of that, very disturbed woman down in Florida, equally disturbed women in Orange County about 2 weeks ago over the mask issue. Same exact thing. saying this really loony QAnon level conspiracy theory stuff about, and screaming at the top of their lungs about how you will not, I will have my freedom and you're trying to kill me, and, just weird. So there's something in the subculture of the right wing on masks that goes just beyond, hey, I love Donald Trump, and, I'm not going to be a sheeple. I mean, that's part of it, of course, but there's something else too. There's something in the deep, dark, corners of the fever swamp that is saying that this is like, some kind of a conspiracy, and they're trying to kill people, they're trying to kill them and all this, because it's happening in these, in Orange County and in Florida. This can't be a coincidence. They're getting this nonsense from somewhere. So there's that happening, and I don't think it's any mystery as to why Orange County and some of these conservative counties in California are leading the way with the new infections, because they basically they do not want to even acknowledge that this thing is going on. And I think for most of them, I mean, I got to say, I think it's Trump. I mean, I think he is out there pretty much saying it's over, that it was kind of a hoax to begin with, and that, basically this is all, a plot to deny him his reelection. And I think a lot of them have bought into that. I mean, you could hear it in Arizona this week when he was down there to give his speech to the megachurch, and they interviewed a bunch of the people in front of there, and that's exactly what they were saying. This is just, this thing is a hoax. You people are hypocritical. The media is, trying to scare everybody. Masks don't work. They make you sick. I mean, all this stuff. So, this is, and of course there was an article in the Washington Post this week that showed that people who listen to Sean Hannity, that his greatest, where his ratings are the highest, is some of the highest infection rates. So, there you have it.
Yeah, I hate to toot my own horn, or tweet my horn. But Brendan, put up this. This is my prediction 3 months ago. It was a picture of Sean Hannity, how right-wing pundits are covering coronavirus. March 11th, in 6 months, someone will create a graphic showing clusters of coronavirus deaths and how they correlate with high Fox News viewership. Fair enough. I was off by 3 months, although I don't think they had a graphic in that Washington Post piece, which basically there are multiple studies now showing this, right? I mean, there's one from University of Chicago, one from Harvard. Now, granted, all elites, egghead elites who are saying this, but all these studies which show this. I mean, but this is, I mean, I'm trying to, everything that we're talking about, right, seems very familiar in the sense that Donald Trump was able, the Republican Party was able to turn on a dime, and all of a sudden deficits are not relevant to them. I mean, that was literally their, the only thing that mattered in terms of their politics in so many respects, right? And they were able to just sort of jettison that. And it was like, wow, they really like Donald Trump. It really only matters what he says. But with something like this, and I think there's some crossover with like anti-vax stuff too. But the anti-vax stuff, it seems to me, is a little bit transpartisan, as it were. At least I always perceived it as being, sort of on the left and the right on some level, right?
It is. Yeah, it is.
But this, I don't know if the anti-vaxxers on this, nominal left, right, left of center, are supportive of this. But this feels like something like it's the pattern's the same, the dynamics the same, but it feels like it's almost different in kind. Because, I mean, honestly, like I get being very skeptical of pharmaceutical companies, and I get the idea of like you're injecting something into my body. I can grasp the skepticism, right? And on some level. I don't share it, and I think it's very dangerous, et cetera, et cetera. But it's not. But like, what do they think a mask is going to do to them? When a sheriff says you're a sheeple for wearing a mask, like I just don't get. Like if I don't know, it's like if we were being attacked by another country, oh, you're building you're I don't know, storing water, or you're fighting the enemy or whatever. Like, I'm trying to come up with some type of analogy where it makes sense that they would have such a intense, it's not skepticism, like just an intense reaction to the idea of wearing a mask when you're in public. Like, I just don't like it. Well, this seems to be like this, we've crossed over from like fans into really sort of like cultists, haven't we?
Absolutely. Yeah, yes, there is no doubt. I mean, in fact, I think on my blog, I put up, the various clips of these people in Orange County and in Florida. And there's another one in Ventura County, a woman dressed in Trump regalia from head to toe, screaming some kind of incoherent nonsense about masks. And, I said, now tell me this isn't a cult, because, it is. You might as well be watching, footage of a Mooney or some member of the Heaven's Gate cult or something. When you see these people saying this stuff, I mean, it's like a form of, it feels as if it's some kind of brainwashing, because it doesn't really make any sense. But when you look at it, I mean, the anti-science sort of strain on the right has been pretty strong for a long time. I think you can find some correlation. And in fact, from what I understand, some of the people who in the dark corners of the fever swamp who are pushing this idea that the virus is a hoax, or that it's, some kind of a plot, whatever that plot is, are among some of the people who are also climate denialists, climate change denialists. There is I think there's a little bit of a through line there on the right with people with climate denialism and COVID denialism. The idea that you cannot trust scientists, that they're all lying to you, that this is a plot to bring you down. And I think Trump has made this pretty explicit, because the idea being that, and he said it out loud, they just want to keep the country closed down forever to deny me re-election. This is the idea that there's a plot, some kind of an alternate agenda, a hidden agenda, with the scientists and with, the sort of concern about the virus, is really something else. I mean, that seems to be something that they believe. As for the specifics on masks, they have developed an entire theory of masks that they're trying to hurt people by making them wear masks, and they will breathe in, their exhale. And this is, they say God made our, they said this in all of them. I don't know where they're getting this, but all these clips, they say the same thing. God made our bodies to breathe the way it breathes. And you're telling me, you're trying to make me, oppose the will of God by making me wear a mask, breathing in my, the exhale. And in fact, I have a Facebook friend, somebody I went to high school with, who, is complete nut. And he's on there saying that any medical person who wears a mask in the course of their treating anyone should have their license removed, because masks are bad no matter what, not just with COVID, not just walking around the street. That he's gone so far as to say that any wearing of a mask is bad, and any medical personnel who use one in any situation are, promoting some kind of hidden agenda. I mean, it was very bizarre. I couldn't believe he said it. Well, I could, because he's that crazy. But I mean, this is how far they're going, to sort of, it's deep into this tribal cultist, this rabbit hole that they're down. And I don't see how they can climb out. And unfortunately, with the virus, the problem is that, what is it? They say one person in a crowd can infect 20 people. And so, what do you do about this? I mean, I'm stymied on how cause we have very little in the arsenal to protect people. This is not a perfect solution. Masks are just kind of a, it's kind of a slapdash thing. We're just hoping that it will help, and it will. The evidence shows that if everybody did it, we could help a great deal. But if these people aren't observing that, they refuse to stop, to socially distance and, do the sort of rudimentary kind of mitigation strategies. We've got a problem. I mean,
Well,
this is really
we do have, we're there already. I mean, this is the thing, is that like you and I have had conversations like this for 15 years, and we talk about, this lunacy or that lunacy on the right, and we've never had such a clear one-to-one causal connection between that lunacy and to see the sort of the extent of that lunacy and the power of that lunacy. I mean, that lunacy is driving what could very well be a massive catastrophe in Arizona, could very well be a massive catastrophe in Texas, maybe in Florida, maybe in parts of California. And I mean, like, we're like this isn't a fringe. This is the mainstream enough that they have governors of some of the biggest states in the country doing their bidding, like kowtowing to them, like that sheriff who's up in, Northwest Washington or, Southwest Washington State, wherever it was, going around like, shake my hand, man. I'm just saying that, you wear a mask, it's sheeple. And here's the other thing, like, I got news for you folks. God did not make these glasses. Or at the very least, I saw the guy, I went to the eye doctor, and, I think they made these at Lens Crafters, and that helps me see. Like, well, I mean, presumably God made the ability of humans to make a mask and know when to wear it and when not to. Like, but I know that's a small point, but this is, we've never, I feel like we've never had an example of the lunacy having such a direct and immediate impact, right? Like, the lunacy is like, we can measure this in weeks. We can measure this in infections, and I mean, hopefully, maybe not, as many deaths, but I get the sense that the deaths in this situation are, they're a lagging indicator, but I have a feeling that they're going to be even more lagging because of, it's not like the virus basically says like, well, we've chewed up as many 20, 30-year-olds as we want. We're going to leave the 40, 50, 60, 70-year-olds alone. That doesn't happen, right? Like, at one point, like, we may not have the same measure of commingling between, the 20 to 40 cohort as like, in between like as there is, 20 to 40 may not commingle as much with 50 and 60-year-olds as a 40-year-old will, or a 45-year-old, et cetera, et cetera. But at one point it crosses that divide, and it maybe those folks are more, cautious, and maybe they're not in these areas. And then it's Johnny ball game at that point. Right. I mean,
well, we all live in the same country. I mean, whether we like it or not, there's going to be some crossover between the generations. I mean, you can't, I think older people are taking, better precautions now that they know. I mean, I know I am. But compared to the early days when nobody knew what was going on, I think nursing homes are probably being more, cautious and taking precautions. But the truth is that even young people, if they get this thing, it's really a crapshoot. This is a very, very ugly disease. If you get it and you get it bad, and it does happen that certain demographics, certain populations. Here in California, the Latino population is being hit way harder than anybody else. And that's happening. Almost all the deaths among people under the age of 34 have been Latino in this state. And this is it's just a matter of the living situations, the certain health issues that even if you're young, you can be hit hard. And you're an essential worker, you're working at some warehouse, or you're going to you check out groceries or whatever, and you're 25 years old and you can get it too. And I don't think anybody should want anyone to get this thing, because you just don't know how it's going to affect you, and they don't know what the long-term effects are. So, I mean, that's just nuts. And even beyond that, look, of course, it's a lagging indicator. Like you said, that 25% of California's cases happen in the last 2 weeks. Well, it takes a while for for people to get really sick, then they get into the hospital, then they, go through the whole process, which we observed the horror of it in New York already. So we know exactly what happens. There may be some better treatments, but there's no therapeutic drug. Nobody ingesting bleach isn't going to help you. So, that same thing is going to happen. It just takes a while. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but I feel pretty confident that we're going to see the mortality rate rise. And, the president out there, he said last night on Sean Hannity, and tweeted, he's very proud of the mortality rate in the United States. We have a great mortality rate. I mean, we're among the best in the world. It's 125,000 people are dead in the last 4 months. Any leader who would be out there bragging about something like that, as if that is a huge accomplishment and he's done something really great. I mean, it boggled my mind to hear him do that. I thought, he never mentions the dead in any kind of a normal fashion that any leader would, with any empathy, with any sense that there's some kind of great loss going on. 125,000 people. And people, I hear epidemiologists saying, yeah, well, we're looking probably 250,000 could be by the end of the year. And, Trump is out there touting that as a measure of his success. And I find it absolutely, mind-boggling that this guy is, still revered by as many people as he is. And of course, from the polling that we've seen this in the last few days, particularly that New York Times poll, but also, there's been several others that are indicating that he's losing, especially one of his most loyal demographics, which is people over 65. I don't think they appreciate that. No. I don't think they appreciate hearing him brag about all the deaths. I really don't, because, it's hitting them and people they know. I mean, if you're over 65, you know somebody who's died probably, or know of somebody who's died. And, I don't think they're not happy about it. I mean, he's actually starting to lose that demographic, which is just, he's screwed.
Yeah,
he's screwed if that happens.
I think that last point, I certainly know of at least 2 people who have passed who are over the age of 65 from COVID. Mm-hmm. I knew them personally, and I'm not that age, right? I mean, these are friends of my parents. And so I would imagine that's the case across the country, and it certainly will be increasingly. And so the idea that people aren't taking it seriously is going to mean a lot more to people who know about it. I think that's also happening in the Black community. I had a story today. 1 out of 3 Black Americans are aware of someone who died of COVID-19. But you also mentioned, the implications of what happens with kids. There was a story out today in, it was yesterday in Nature magazine, suggesting that there is mounting evidence suggesting that the coronavirus might trigger diabetes, like spontaneous diabetes almost. And there's a whole host. I think, we're not going to know, I think, for quite some time, frankly, the long-term implications of this disease on other people. But I mean, as they grow older, I'm just so amazed at, we've talked about this for a while, the idea that Donald Trump is going to go away. And at least in the context of our relationship with the rest of the world, they would be there. Things aren't going to, immediately snap back. It's going to take a couple of generations, because people are like, you guys elected Donald Trump. Even if you you only made him a one-term president, there's still something broken in your country. And this, you know, I mean, like, really, like, you gotta, like, the EU is basically gonna open up and not invite Americans in, and it is, you know, beyond a rational decision on their part. I mean, you know, like, I mean, we're not even trying as a country. We're not even trying to deal with this pandemic, and it's just, it's shocking. Up. And there's a whole host of other things that, you know, the federal government is refusing to help with. I was talking today about school, like, you know, right now across the country, parents who have kids in elementary schools and middle schools and high schools, they are undoubtedly, like my experience, you know, having taking a survey or reading about potential options for the fall. We may do 3 days on, 2 days off. We may do 2 days on, 2 days off. We may do half day here, half day there. We may do once a week, whatever it is. And this is like, I mean, you know, people have to work. And you're making parents choose if they either parents have no choice, and it's just like, okay, kids, you know, here's the computer. If we're fortunate enough to have one, because a lot of these kids are in families, particularly in the context of New York, but around the country, they don't have the technology that they need. Sometimes the schools are offering it, and sometimes they're not. But they don't necessarily have Wi-Fi. If you don't have a computer, you know, why would you have Wi-Fi? Maybe folks who just, you know, use their phones. The problems range from that to folks who have to make a decision, you know, do I work or do I take care of my kid and make sure that my kid gets a decent education? I mean, you got elementary school kids who are learning the basics, and it's very hard to do online, very hard to do without, you know, and particularly without having someone there the entire time sitting with you and directing that. And if you've got a full-time job, you can't do that. I mean, the myriad of problems here, in the federal government is doing nothing. It's insanity. It's full on insanity. And
the states aren't doing much either. Ron DeSantis yesterday just signed some school choice bill like that. You know, yeah, well, we'd like to be able to choose school, but they're, you know, what are you talking about? Why are you doing this right now? So, you know, there is absolute, and I get how each place may need to have, you know, specific solutions specific to their situation. An inner city school isn't going to be the same as a suburban school or a rural school. And there's different requirements for elementary kids and high school kids. And, you know, it's all going to be, you know, very complicated. Let's put it that way. You know, teachers are all sitting there going, hey, you know, I'd prefer not to die, thanks, you know, and the kids, they need to go to school. I mean, this is a terrible situation. But it just, you know, look, other places who did this right, who managed to find a way, you know, through, you know, solid messaging among everybody, which is really one of the keys, they say. I mean, I read about this all day long. You know, public health people say, look, one of the keys is, number one, you have to have trust in the people who are telling you things. Most people have to trust what they're hearing, which, of course, in the case of our federal government is impossible because we have, you know, an incompetent boob running the country who says maybe we should try to drink bleach. So you need that. You need trust, and you need consistent messaging, and you need people saying, you know, the same thing everywhere. This is what you need to do, which, you know, it can even change over as you learn more about what's going on in whatever the situation is. You can change whatever. If there's trust there, people will believe that, and they will, you know, they won't think it was a plot or some kind of a, you know, a mistake or a conspiracy. But we've had none of that. I mean, we've got people, even within the Trump administration, there are now people, you know, saying different things. You've got the president out there saying, you know, we're just going to put out the embers, even though the whole country's on fire at the moment. And then you've got Fauci out there today saying something's gone terribly wrong, and we've got to, you know, try and do something different. So they're talking about doing this, what do they call it, pool testing. which means that you take a group of, you take 20 people, you take 100 people and you take 20 tests, 5 groups of 20 tests, and you test within that, you test that group of 20 together. If there's no virus in it, then you discard that, and you only, then look more deeply at the where the virus comes up. I may not be understanding that very, very well, but in any case, that's what he's proposing. That we change to that because they're not capturing enough of the cases. It's clear that it's running completely out of control now. In fact, virtually all the states, are starting to cases are increasing. Now, It's not. It's the worst in places like California and Texas and Florida and Arizona, that whole Sun Belt down there. But it's everywhere now. It's going up everywhere. And even New York is going to have to be very, very careful here because they're showing a very slight uptick. And, people are out again, aren't they?
Well,
and they're starting to, we saw those pictures.
There's two things. There's two things
standing outside drinking together,
we're not going to know the implications, as far as I know, to the extent that there's contact tracing going on in New York. My understanding is that de Blasio, I don't know if this was changed, but the last I heard, they're not going to ask if you were at a protest, right? So we're not going to have a sense of whether or not it is ridiculous. And we're not going to have a sense of whether that contributed to it. But yes, I think, there's a lot more sort of like, people getting loosey-goosey with this stuff. I think we're up in so-called phase 4 or just about to get to phase 4. New York, I think, just about to get to phase 3, the city. The rest of the state, not all of it, but a significant portion of it's phase 4, which is like, basically the last phase. And I personally, I think you should not be allowed to go into any building or store or anywhere without a mask. I get this email from somebody who lives in Central Florida. She said it's a very red town, about 20 minutes outside of Orlando. A few days ago, the mayor of Orange County issued an executive order mandating masks in public places. Since this order was mandated, I've seen the most anti-mask zealots in my community message board post things like, since we all have to wear masks now, does anyone know where I can get a Trump 2020 mask? She said she's giddy to see these type of posts because her daughter is a newly diagnosed diabetic. They've been nervous about going around and no one was wearing masks. She said in the 2 weeks leading up to the executive order, my significant other who would wear a mask was met with aggressive harassment every time he went out. That included being called a pussy, people getting uncomfortably close while asking him why he was wearing a mask, and people literally coughing on him. Just getting groceries and prescriptions had become a harrowing endeavor and source of stress. So they said, she says, mask compliance has gone from about 2% to almost 50%. And so, you don't even have to do too much other than just say, like, you got to do this. And undoubtedly going from 2 to 50% is going to cut down on the transmission. Yeah. Of course. Of course. It's so basic. I
noticed the same thing in my neighborhood when, like I said, 2 weeks ago, everything was opening up and I was seeing people in restaurants and bars and running around. Nobody was wearing masks, or at least, a lot of people weren't wearing masks. And Newsom, the governor here, he mandated masks now. You can't go out in public without one. And of course, some people are flouting it because what are they going to do? Haul you off to jail? They know that's not going to happen. But I did see a massive increase in people wearing masks again in the last week or so, from where it was 2 weeks ago. So it helps if they say, if the authorities say, hey, you need to do this, some people go, oh, okay, I guess I should. For some reason they can't make that decision on their own and understand the great, voluntarily understand the concept behind it. But when they're told, some people do it. And wear the Trump 2020 mask, wear the I'm a snowflake, whatever it is,
right.
You want to put on your mask, have at it, just wear one.
That's the thing is, I think, I can understand why people, are, reluctant to do it when it hasn't been made official, because there's this presumption of, like, if it really was important, they would tell us to do it. And the president wouldn't be out there saying it doesn't matter. But Well, listen, Digby, we didn't get a chance to talk about what's happening. Joe Biden's obviously the numbers are going up. I think this coronavirus is definitely a function of it. In places like Georgia and Florida and Texas, I mean, his numbers have gone up since April, and we're seeing numbers now that I think it's unlikely he's going to win in a place like Georgia, although it's possible. Maybe North Carolina, Texas. I think it's unlikely, but the polling is tightening. I think, on some level, we're getting a better sense that only there's 30 to 35 to 40% of American population who are authoritarian. The irony is they're the sheep, right? Right. I mean, that's, you're going to listen to this guy who says don't wear a mask in the face of a pandemic. I got news for you. Look in the mirror if you're looking for the sheep. We also didn't get a chance to talk about the big progressive wins this week. Maybe we'll, in a couple of weeks, we'll have a better sense.
We'll know more next week.
Yeah, that's true. So, well, in the meantime, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate it. Folks can check out what you've been writing over at Hullabaloo and on salon.com. It's always a pleasure, Heather.
Thanks for having me, Sam. I appreciate it.
All right. We're going to take a break, folks. And when we come back, supposedly on the line, we will have...
He's on Zoom, so I don't know if we want to take a break. Yeah.
Oh, okay. He's on Zoom. All right. That's fine. Then bring him on. I didn't know. I thought he was going to call into the phone system. But apparently he's on my link. He's on Zoom. Here he is.
I'm losing it, bro.
I guess he is. Here he is. Let's bring him on. It's Jon Benjamin. Does he not know how to do this? I mean,
he looks like he's connected by microphone, but not by video yet. So
by video. Yeah. Does he not know how to work it?
Appears that he might not know how to work it.
Oh, this guy. Do you want to give him a phone? It just says wait to him now. That's what.
Oh, okay. That might be an internet problem.
Hold on. Wait, did you send him the link to the phone system? Brendan?
I sent him a Zoom link because that's what we've been doing on Fridays.
Oh, all right. Let's send him a link to the phone system.
Okay. In that case, we can take a break if you want to.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, he just entered the waiting room again.
He did? Oh, my God. Let's see if we can get him on.
All right.
This guy.
So it's fitting for the sound drop.
John, are you there? Oh, my God.
I'm losing it, bro.
Yeah, I guess you are. John, hang up your phone. We're going to send you a different link if you can hear me. All right, kick him out. Kick him out. Hang up on that guy. God. So irritating. Jesus. Okay. He's old. He doesn't know how to do these things. He doesn't know how to do any of this stuff. Let's take a phone call. Shall we?
Sure.
In the meantime, and then we'll hopefully you get calling from a 308 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? Oh my God. 308.
Hey.
Hey.
Am I here?
Yeah, you're here.
Oh, cool. It's Nebraska calling from Kowalski.
Nebraska calling from Kowalski. There you go. What's happening, Kowalski, from Nebraska?
Well, I wanted to discuss a couple things with you. I got your Soros check. Yeah, apparently it got routed to me.
Great.
So I'm going to send you an email so I can reroute you all this Soros money.
Appreciate it.
Not sure how that keeps happening. Yeah, those are getting really wild on social media. It would be funny if it wasn't so detrimental to the, republic. But anywho, wanted to tell you one thing about masks and then something about mail-in elections. So, masks. I have not been bothered with it yet, but my roommate had, who is a much smaller person, and he found the easiest way to get people to leave you alone is to say you tested positive for corona. They'll back away. It's hilarious. He was like, yeah, he was getting harassed about it, and he was like, oh, well, I tested positive, so, I mean, that's why I'm wearing it. And they'll just leave you alone.
All right, fair enough. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
If you're getting grief for wearing a mask. How is it in Nebraska?
Where I'm at, things are, well, more or less stable. My sister-in-law said that they're getting more cases lately, but they're less severe. Lincoln and Omaha, though, it's starting to get fairly bad. Their hospital beds are filling up pretty quick. They might actually have to start moving some people towards us. But stable for now, I guess. But, yeah. Probably not going to pan out very well, especially once the holiday gets here.
Yeah. All right. Well,
but
what else?
The election, I was just going to say, mail-in ballot. I think that is a distraction from them just wanting to purge the voter rolls, because mail-in ballots would disproportionately affect people in rural America, especially the farm community. Because if you did that in Iowa, Trump would lose the election, because nobody's going to stop in the middle of harvest to go vote, and nobody is going to be able to do the primaries if they're in planting season. I'm pretty sure it's just a screen to purge the voter rolls.
Interesting. Huh.
That would be my perspective, and I would be looking for.
So you think that he'd be in big trouble in places like Iowa if there was mail-in?
Iowa, Michigan, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota, he would be killing himself. Not a single person in the rural areas would have time to go do anything. You're talking the busiest season of the year. I mean, you cannot put harvest off. As soon as snow falls, you're screwed.
So wait a second. I'm unclear on what you're. I'm unclear on what you're saying. That mail-in would help him in these places.
No, mail-in would help him, because that's the only. In Nebraska, our mail-in voting is very, very easy, because you don't have to give an explanation as to why you want to do it. I get my ballot 40 days before
I'm sorry,
the
Kowalski, you cut
election.
out. Your point is that mail-in would help him.
Yes, mail-in helps him, because that's the only way rural people can vote. So in the swing districts that have a lot of rural population, like Iowa, like Minnesota, like Wisconsin, where it was a fringe victory for him, it would be terrible for him, which is why I think it's a distraction in order to just purge the voter rolls.
I don't understand how that works. What do you mean it's a distraction to just purge the voter rolls?
Well, while everyone's, worried about mail-in ballots, people will be able to just purge their voter rolls. Get rid of people with certain names that, insinuate a certain affiliation.
I think people are paying attention to those attempts too, though. I mean, I think he's worried about mail-in ballots for the reason you're talking about. Maybe, just in broadly speaking, he thinks that if more people vote, he's going to lose. But we'll see. Kowalski, appreciate the phone call.
All right, I'll send you that check. Goodbye.
Thank you. Everybody can send me a check if they want. That's great. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think on the phone now we should have, if he's figured it out, Jon Benjamin. Jon, are you there?
Am I on?
Yeah, you're on.
Am I on?
Yeah, you're on.
Oh, wow. Oh, good. Thanks for helping me out.
Thanks for helping you out. I'm not sure I follow.
To get on. I couldn't get on before based on the most simplest of instructions. And now you made it even simpler, and then I got on.
You're not very good with this technology stuff, are you, Jon?
I usually don't call into radio shows. But I'm competent enough. I got on, right?
Yeah, you're on, and you sound good.
Well, the problem is you didn't make it very easy for me in the beginning.
I think we did. But for whatever reason,
I clicked the link and it didn't connect me.
Well, I mean,
I feel like
we saw you on the screen. We saw Jon's iPhone. Do you have an iPhone?
I do.
Yeah. All right.
I do. And I was pressing buttons feverishly for like 3 or 4 minutes, and nothing was happening.
Well, that's. I mean, did you hear me playing this?
I'm losing it, bro.
Are you playing it?
Yeah. I'm playing it.
Oh, good.
I'm losing it, bro.
Yeah.
John, tell me the
Oh,
context.
good, because that's
well, just
the concept.
The context in which you were saying that. Like, what is that supposed to mean?
Well, I basically, I want this is like pretty heady times, and I was trying to figure out something to do about it,
mm-hmm.
And how I could help in in my own limited way, and I wanted to do something, and so earlier this week I recorded myself saying I'm losing it, bro, and I think it's pretty general. Like, it's kind of tapping into the way a lot of people feel right now about everything that's going on. So I recorded myself saying it. And like I said, I think it resonates now more than ever. And then I sent it to you to play on your show, so that we could, maybe if you play it, then I thought we could make T-shirts using the phrase "I'm losing it, bro," because of, like I said, because it's taps into the zeitgeist, and then we could sell them.
Yeah, and in fact, here is an example. We have done that. It is now in the. You can now go and pre-order a limited edition.
Yeah,
I'm losing it, bro T-shirt. We're putting it on there with the Majority Report logo. That's at shop.majorityreportradio.com. You can go in and find that link. You can get that from the homepage too, though, right? Yeah. So there it is. It says "I'm losing it, bro" with an exclamation point, and then on the arm there you can see it says the Majority Report, and it's $25. And
yeah, I think that's great.
And all the
and then I figured that what we could do is probably do like a 50-50 split of the profits, and you take half, obviously, because you have the platform, and I take half because I came up with the idea.
I was under the impression that we were going to donate all the proceeds to the Skid Row Housing Trust in LA for it is you can find that Brendan, put that up here. You can it's skidrow.org. It is helps folks who are unhoused. And
wait. That was a bit of an ambush. I was under the impression that we hadn't. Wait, what?
Well, we're
Like what?
You weren't doing this to make money for yourself, was it?
Well, for us. I mean, and I sent the clip to a lot of radio stations and podcasts.
You sent
like I sent the clip. I sent the clip to like probably over 200 radio shows across the country.
You sent that clip to over 200 radio stations across the country?
Yeah, you were the only one that got back to me about it.
Well, I thought it was for charity.
Well, I never said that, but I guess you're saying it now, and that changes my perspective a little bit. But I didn't know. I didn't make that arrangement. I was like, didn't I send you an email? Because I had a form email I sent to almost. I don't remember.
I didn't read the email. I don't read stuff from you. I mean, I just assumed. I mean, like you're marginally.
Well, I mean, I do like most of my work, like in my most of my work in my writing, I do to get paid. Probably just like you're doing this, right? You like it is.
Well, but John, I mean, you've been marginally successful at your little cartoon things that you do. And, I just assumed that you said, I'm doing this to give back.
Well, I said I was doing it to do something about this moment. I didn't say it was like and yeah, I guess technically it's, I'm
I don't
giving
understand.
back.
What does you profiting from a T-shirt do for this moment?
Well, sharing an idea and a concept with everybody, and then, getting paid for it. But I see your point about maybe I would definitely do the thing about the giving it away now that you bring it up.
It didn't occur to you before?
I
mentioned it. I mean, the
I think it's a fine idea to give the part or all of the money to.
Well, I think
the organization you were talking
I think
about.
we should do all the money, all the proceeds from this limited edition T-shirt.
Well,
and we're going to do it. We're going to do pre-orders.
All minus like maybe the administrative costs of having what I've done already, like recording it and using that time that it took, and then sending out all the emails.
The time that it took to record this,
I'm losing it, bro.
It's 2.3 seconds long.
Well, yeah, but that wasn't the only take.
You did a bunch of takes. How many takes did you do?
I also recorded "I'm Losing It, Girl." So for ladies, for the T-shirt, we could also do one more for women, even though it kind of doesn't matter because bro is a pretty common term used by everybody. But we could do "I'm Losing It, Girl" would be also an idea.
I'm losing it, girl. And so, okay, so that's 4.6 seconds. And how much do you feel like you should get paid for that?
Well, like I said, if we print out "I'm Losing It, Girl," it might be a good idea to split the profits on "I'm Losing It, Girl" and give all the proceeds to charity from "I'm Losing It, Bro."
Why would it be girl and not sis?
My ideal is girl just because it's more like colloquial, common. Sis is weird.
Okay. Well, we can look into that, but I don't know if I want to set up more T-shirts. I mean, we've got this limited edition. We're going to do it for 3 weeks, and all the proceeds are going to go to help this organization in LA, skidrow.org. It is the Skid Row Housing Trust. They basically provide permanent supportive housing so the people who've experienced homelessness, prolonged extreme poverty, poor health, disabilities, mental illness, and or addiction can lead safe, stable lives in wellness.
Yeah, I can always come up with other ideas and sell them separately as well, like my own shirts. I could get an online website, and I'll work on that this week.
What would be some of your other ideas of your catchphrases? Because this one, I feel like you've probably
I'm losing it, bro.
You've probably peaked with that one because everybody's sort of losing it, and it's like you're telling, just everybody you're losing it.
Yeah, I mean, I like off the cuff, I would be like, I don't know, there's a million ideas out there that would.
You there?
Crazy times.
All right, say it again.
Yeah.
Well, you broke up for a second.
I said this. Like maybe one that says "crazy times, huh?" with a question mark.
Crazy times, huh? That would be the T-shirt that you'd want to put out there. Crazy times, huh?
Well, that's just one idea. I'm saying I'll come up with new ideas. Like I said, next week. You put me on the spot.
You're going to come up with new ideas next week? Where you're not going to take the weekend off from coming up with great lines like "I'm losing it, bro"?
"I'm Losing It, Bro" is really good. You played it on your show, which is, because you liked it.
Did any of the other 200 radio stations that you sent it to, any of them play it?
Well, like I said, not everybody has gotten back to me yet, but so far you're the only show that is using the clip so far that I know of.
When you say not everybody has gotten back to you, what you mean is no one has gotten back to you except for me.
Right. So far, but it's only been a week.
A week. Okay.
Like I said, I came up with this I came up with this whole thing on Monday. So, and things are moving a little more slowly now.
Right. All right.
But like next month, next week, I'll come up with more. We can make more T-shirts and then talk about a different profit structure.
A different profit structure. Okay. In the meantime, though, folks can go to shop.majorityreportradio.com and pick up this limited edition I'm Losing It Bro Majority Report T-shirt. And we will give the proceeds, 100% of the proceeds to this organization. 100%, over cost.
Yeah, I'm totally now that you say what you just said, I'm totally in favor of that. And I love that idea. That's a very good idea to help out that organization. And I should probably think about doing that more as I come up with more ideas about for T-shirts.
Yeah, maybe you should. I mean, are you able to work through this? Are you doing that? What is that cartoon that you're on? That cartoon?
Maybe I should make a T-shirt that says "Majority Report Sucks."
Well, I don't get that. I mean, like,
I don't know. I think people might like that.
I mean, I don't think they would. I don't get what the hook is.
I don't know, for people who don't like your show.
But how would I advertise that? How would I reach those people?
Through your website.
But I mean, if they don't like the show, why would they listen to the show and hear me selling those T-shirts?
People who hate listen, like I do.
You hate listen to the show?
Sometimes.
All right. How often? How often do you hate listen to this show that I could sell you a T-shirt that says the Majority Report sucks?
How often do I?
Yeah.
I like once a day.
So you listen every day to the show because you hate it so much?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what hate listening and hate watching is. You really get into it.
And so you would probably be one of the first people who would buy a Majority Report sucks T-shirt.
I don't know. It was, like I said, it was just an idea. We don't necessarily have to print that one.
Okay. Yeah, I probably will take a pass on that.
Fine.
All right.
Fine.
Maybe I would do how about Jon Benjamin with a van sucks. How about that?
I mean, I don't even think many people, first of all, it's been off the air for like 9 years.
Well, so
and not many people knew about that.
How about then I could just add, and the truth hurts.
Just and the truth hurts is a good T-shirt.
Maybe we could do that one. Well, for the meantime, we have this.
I'm losing it, bro.
This is the shirt that we're selling. We're doing the pre-orders on I'm Losing It, Bro, Majority Report. It is the Jon Benjamin. I'll give you that that honor. It's the Jon Benjamin limited edition Majority Report T-shirt.
All proceeds going to
skidrow.org.
The organization you mentioned.
Yep. Well, John.
And none to me.
And none to Jon Benjamin. I promise that. I will make this vow. You will see not a dime of that.
Oh, well, I mean, we gave it a shot.
All right. Well, good try. Next time, better luck. Jon Benjamin, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
No problem. We'll be listening in tomorrow.
Well, tomorrow's Saturday, so it's going to be pretty tame show.
I'll go into the archives.
All right. Well, appreciate that. He's going to go into the archives and listen to the show. Jon Benjamin, ladies and gentlemen. Jon Benjamin of
I'm losing it, bro.
Fame. So head over, go pre-order that shirt. All the proceeds go to skidrow.org. Great organization that is helping folks who are unhoused in LA. Big problem with housing in LA, and obviously very difficult during COVID-19. Very few opportunities for folks living on the streets to socially distance, to get health care. Really important. So, Jon Benjamin rarely has a good idea, but occasionally stumbles onto a couple. And this was one of them. So let's do that. Everybody head over there. We will put a link to the page in our YouTube description, and we will put a link to our ads for today, and then we're going to head into the fun half. Just a reminder, this show relies on its listeners for its support. You can become a member at jointhemajorityreport.com. If you're one of those folks who want to listen but don't have the financial resources, send us an email, majorityreporters@gmail.com. Have some patience. We will get to it. Just inundated right now, and so we're working our way through these emails. If you haven't heard from us in a while, maybe your email got lost, so you can resend it. Don't forget AM Quickie. You can listen to that, amquickie.com. Obviously, we've got other merch over at shop.majorityreportradio.com and justcoffee.coop. Fair trade coffee, tea, or chocolate. Use the coupon code majority, get 10% off. Check out TMBS this week, The Michael Brooks Show, on patreon.com, The Michael Brooks Show, and youtube.com, The Michael Brooks Show, TMBS. Matt, who is on this week? Matt will join us in a moment.
I'm right back. Yeah, I'm here. Who did we have on this week? I think we had Ronan Burtonshaw. We had a few people. I'm blanking on who we had this week.
And check out the No Me Key Show. You can find that on patreon.com. The No Me Key Show, and also on youtube.com, the No Me Key Show. She also did a great roundup of the races on Tuesday night with I hopped onto that for a little bit, but some really knowledgeable people, like on the ground people who have campaigned in New York, and to get a sense of the sort of those dynamics. I find that stuff fascinating. So check that out. Also, the Antifada, Jamie's somewhere, I don't know where she is, in a tent somewhere, but they cut a couple of episodes for this week, and check it out, patreon.com/the Antifada. And of course, Matt is taking that CBD and streaming on Twitch. Are you still there, Matt? I think his connection went out. Well, check out Literary Hangover on its Twitch TV, twitch.tv/Literary Hangover. Brendan, can you take us to the fun half?
I certainly can.
All right, well, let's do that. We'll head to the fun half. Left is best. Jamie and I may have a disagreement.
Yeah, you can't just say whatever you want about people just because you're rich.
I have an absolute right to mock them on YouTube.
He's up there buggy whipping like he's the boss.
I am not your employer.
You know, I'm tired of the negativity.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. You're nervous? You're a little bit upset? You're riled up?
Yeah, maybe you should rethink your defense of that, you fucking idiots.
We're just going to get rid of you.
All right.
But dude. You want to smoke this joint?
Yes.
Do you feel like you are a dinosaur?
That's a good shit.
Exactly. I'm happy now.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win.
Oh, hell yeah.
Now listen to me. 2, 3, 4, 5 times. 847-906-501-457. 2, 38, 56, 27. 1 half. 5 eighths. 3.9 billion.
Wow.
He's the ultimate math nerd.
Don't you see?
Why don't you get a real job instead of spewing vitriol and hatred, you left-wing Limbaugh?
Everybody's taking their dumb juice today.
Come on, Sammy.
Dance, dance, dance.
Ooh.
my first post-coital scene with a woman. I'm hoping to add more moves to my repertoire. All I have is the dip and the swirl.
Fine, we can double dip.
Yes, this is a perfect moment.
No.
Wait, what?
You make under $1 million a year. You're scum. You're nothing.
Excuse me? Fuck you, you fucking liberal elite. I think you belong in jail.
Thank you for saying that, Sam. You're a horrible, despicable person.
All right, gonna take a quick break. I want to take a moment to talk to some of the libertarians out there. Take whatever vehicle you want to drive to the library. What you're talking about is jibber jabber.
Classic. I'm feeling more chill already.
Good. Donald Trump can kiss all of our asses.
Hey, Sam. Hey, Andy. You guys ready to do some evil?
Hitler was such an idiot.
That guy might be a Nazi.
Agree.
No.
Death to America.
You.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow, that's weird. No way. Unbelievable. This guy's got a really good hook.
Throw our hands up.
Ooh. Wow.
But Sam, I gotta get off.
No worries. Let's. I want to just flesh this out a little bit. I mean, look, it's a free speech issue. If you don't like me,
Hey, shut up.
Thank you for calling into the Majority Report. Sam will be with you shortly.
Hey, don't forget, you can email Kyle at fans.fm, and he will set you up with an ability to do some phone banking for Jessica Raines, who is running against Chris Coons in Delaware. Go ahead, do that. Check it out. Definitely worthwhile to do. Got to spread the word. That would be huge. I mean, that would be huge. A tough road, but that would be huge. All right, calling from a Skype number, foreign call, I think. I don't know where you're calling from. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Sam. How's it going? It's Matthew calling here from London. How are you?
Matthew from London. I'm well. How are you?
Good. The last time we spoke, I spoke to you and Namiki. I talked about the gross numbers of infections versus recorded infections. And I'm sadly being predicted right. So in the UK, we sort of totaling around about 45,000 casualties from COVID. But the excess deaths, which is basically how many people died for the period this year compared to an average of the last 3 years, or whatever average you want to put it out to, is about 65,000 over and above what we'd normally have. So that's something people should be keeping an eye out on for the States. And unfortunately, the real number is much higher than the total because, people die of a heart attack because they're scared to go to the hospital.
Right. And, sadly, in this country, that is, well, I mean, they're afraid to go to the hospital. And that is, I mean, I don't know how you make that assessment, right? I mean, that is, it's a function of COVID, but people say it's an argument as to why we should pretend like it doesn't exist. But then you would have more. I mean, that's the people in this country. There are people in this country. I don't know if it's the same in England, but there are people in this country who will cite what you just cited as a reason why we should not take this pandemic seriously.
Well, that's nonsense. I mean, I could, if you don't mind me speaking to that just a little bit. Please. From my lived experience working in a hospital briefly, but also just talk about free healthcare very, very quickly.
Please do.
So, basically, I was forced to leave a horrible job in the sales sector, and I worked a very short-term contract in a hospital. And one of the things we did was organize porters and like a call for EMTs. So, and when doctors run to someone having a heart attack, there's another person who runs with like an oxygen bottle, a porter. And then if the person needs blood or they need some kind of adrenaline or whatever it is, then so that a nurse doesn't have to run off and get it, a porter will always attend every cardiac arrest or stroke or whatever. And I was shocked by the amount of people that would have strokes or heart attacks like at the reception, which was where we were sitting, or just past, or like sitting in the coffee shop nearby. But it's not really that strange if you think about it, because people in hospital tend to be unwell and also older. And who has more heart attacks than old people or their spouses? So, people go to hospital often, they're feeling a bit peaky, and then the effort, they can't put their finger on it. No one thinks I'm about to have a stroke or I'm about to have a heart attack. And sometimes just the effort of walking from their car to the A&E triggers the heart attack that was kind of coming, if you see what I'm saying.
Yes.
So there's definitely this thing of, if people are not acting on those instincts and going to hospital, then it will just be higher, because, again, you wouldn't want to have a heart attack, but the one place you would want to have it besides in the A&E is 50 yards or 150 yards away from the A&E,
right?
In terms of response times. So, and obviously it's complicated in the US because, you have the bill of, if it's heartburn or you're having a panic attack or something like that, then you do have a problem.
I wish there was a way that we could actually make that assessment, right? I don't know that there's a way you could actually study that, but I think, certainly surveys suggest that people definitely put off, regular health care in this country because of cost. And we just don't know how many people die simply because, not just that they're, we know the figures of people that die because they don't have any health insurance, period. But we don't really know how many people die because they opt to not go to the hospital because they would rather believe it's not serious because they don't want to pay the price to go find out. I mean, the dynamic. Yeah. And here's what's even sicker about the right-wing talking points for why we shouldn't have free at the point of service healthcare. Because patients need to function as consumers. And so they need to basically if they know how much stuff costs, they will be reluctant to seek out those procedures or that type of care. And they actually see that as a benefit. It's insane. Appreciate the call.
Can I talk a little bit more about that very quickly?
Just quickly. Yes, please.
Okay. So, when my daughter was born in the UK, she immediately had health problems, and she was in neonatal intensive care for 3 weeks, top-notch care. So to give you an idea, not all hospitals in the UK are this good, but to give you an idea, the staff ratio is there's 4 children per ward in this high-intensive care. There's 1 nurse for every 2 children, but actually there's more than that because there's nurses also monitoring like external banks of monitors of heart rate signs and things like that. When you have a child in that facility, you get free lunches and free suppers because they found better outcomes from not having to have the parents go off site in terms of like bonding with the baby and coming back to the hospital and everything else. And when they discharged us, so she's 4 now, I can tell you we've had full genetic screening on the NHS, which is the free public healthcare system here in the UK, which I pay for through my taxes, to give you an idea. Full genetic screening, a genetic specialist. She's had something like the order of 3 specialist appointments every year since she was born for various aspects of what happened to her, because the final diagnosis has never come out. And so they constantly, like every 6 months to a year, they reassess certain things that they worry about based on small things they found in her genome, which might be present in the entire population, but someone who didn't have that experience at birth would never come up. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is all of that, I have paid not a single extra cost ever. She's got asthma as well, or undiagnosed childhood asthma suspected. The prescriptions for that are free.
Wow.
Everything is free, or in fact, it's not free. It's paid for by taxes.
Correct.
And the NHS has problems, but it is such an efficient system. I can tell you, I've lived under an insurance-based system. It's not as grotesque as the US in South Africa, which is where I'm from, because there is a bit of consumer protection. But the difference is that, when you go for a dental treatment, they say, well, a root canal should only cost $400 or whatever the case may be. But the minimum you can get from any kind of dentist that's worth their salt is $2,000. So this is what happens under a system where the things are not controlled.
Appreciate the call. I mean, it's also a little bit, it's like talking to someone from outer space. What? You didn't pay anything for that? What kind of
fiction?
Are you from the future? I hope he is. Speaking of the future, has the vote taken place yet in the House on DC statehood?
Let me check.
It will. If it hasn't, it is imminent. And I believe it's going to pass today. You have 700,000 residents in Washington, D.C. They pay federal taxes. They go into the military. They serve on juries. They do everything that an American citizen in any other place in America does. And the only difference is that they have no federal representation. It's bizarre. It really is bizarre. Just coincidentally, it is a majority minority city, or however they call that. And no representation whatsoever on a federal level. Democrats today, for the first time, and I think I think it's the first time in almost 30 years that there has been a vote on statehood for Washington, D.C. And it certainly would be the first time it ever passes. Then it goes to the Senate. And this really, really upsets Tom Cotton. This may be something that he's on fire these days because he is already starting to smell 2024. Here's Tom Cotton explaining why these people don't deserve any representation in the Senate or in the House.
Most of Washington was under the control not of the federal government, but of a left-wing politician like Muriel Bowser, who frequently takes the side of rioters against law enforcement. Would you trust Mayor Bowser to keep Washington safe if she were given the powers of a governor? Would you trust Marion Barry? More important, should we risk the safety of our capital on such a gamble? Now, of course, the Democrats will argue that the statehood bill doesn't entirely eliminate federal control of Washington because it preserves a small federal district that encompasses the White House, the Capitol, the Supreme Court, the Library of Congress, the National Mall, and a few other government buildings. What a humbling demotion from the grand federal city that President Washington and Pierre L'Enfant envisioned more than 200 years ago, which they hoped would rival Paris in size and ambition.
Pause it for one second.
By contrast,
now I should tell you, Parisians are fully represented. In fact, in every capital, in every democracy in the world, they have representation. The idea that you're going to have people in that the people in the White House are going to be in danger, or the people in in Congress are going to be in danger because you can't trust the mayor of Washington, D.C. to protect the federal buildings from this majority minority city. I mean, I hope people understand the subtext that's going on here with Tom Cotton. Is there more? Let's play it.
by contrast, look at this ridiculous map. Look at it. The Democrats propose to turn Washington into little more than a gerrymandered government theme park, surrounded on all sides by a new state, controlled, of course, by the Democrats. The federal government's safety and independence cannot be assured by such a laughable district. Again, look at it. It's got 90 sides.
What?
A mere city block, less than 200 yards, separates the White House from the proposed boundaries of a new state, governed at present by a politician who hates the president. The Supreme Court and several congressional office buildings are right at the edge of the map, separated from the new democratic state by the width of a single city street. In the event of an emergency like the Philadelphia Mutiny of 1783, those narrow boundaries could jeopardize the operations of the federal government.
Is this guy out of his mind? Is he really making a case that we can't have Washington, D.C. become a state because the federal territory carve-out is too militarily vulnerable to that state? Is that what he's saying?
It'll become the Black Panther Antifa state, and it'll encircle our federal government.
And what does he think? Like, there's going to be some type of blockade? They won't allow food in or something? That's amazing. That's amazing.
It's nuts.
Isn't it? And that's guy, I'm telling you right now, he is the presumptive front runner in 2024. He is attempting to inherit the mantle of Donald Trump if Donald Trump loses in 2020. Tom Cotton will be out there saying, we need to spring Donald Trump from jail. Knock on wood. That guy's nuts. Speaking of Donald Trump and his potential reelection, we heard that Bill Barr wanted to quash part of Michael Cohen's conviction in the same way that he's been doing with Flynn and with Roger Stone. That's the reason why he butted heads with the head of the Southern District of New York's U.S. Attorney's Office. Donald Trump really wants a second term. But I suspect it has more to do with he doesn't want to go to jail, which he suspects is going to happen if he doesn't get reelected, than any agenda. Because here he is with Sean Hannity. This is not exactly tough questioning he's getting. What are your top priorities for a second term? And I think Donald Trump, the only thing that he has is stay out of jail. So he can't really name anything.
If you hear in 131 days from now, at some point in the night or early morning, we can now project Donald J. Trump has been reelected the 45th president of the United States. Let's talk. What's at stake in this election as you compare and contrast? And what are your top priority items for a second term?
Well, one of the things that will be really great, the word experience is still good. I always say talent is more important than experience. I've always said that. But the word experience is a very important word. It's in a very important meaning. I never did this before. I never slept over in Washington. I was in Washington, I think, 17 times. All of a sudden, I'm president of the United States. You know the story. I'm riding down Pennsylvania Avenue with our First Lady, and I say, this is great. But I didn't know very many people in Washington. It wasn't my thing. I was from Manhattan, from New York. Now I know everybody. And I have great people in the administration. You make some mistakes, like, an idiot like Bolton, all he wanted to do is drop bombs on everybody. You don't have to drop bombs on everybody. You don't have to kill people.
If John Bolton, in fact, released classified material, should he be prosecuted?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Well, he did release classified. Actually,
that's it. That's his second term agenda. He knows people. He
didn't know anyone before.
He didn't know anybody before, but the implication is that I'm going to get stuff done this time because I know people, but I don't have any ideas as to what I want to get done. The bottom line is he wants to stay out of prison.
Yeah, maybe I'm imagining this, but there's sort of a sunkenness to his. He doesn't think he's going to win. Like, it seems like he can't even put his heart in the answer to that question because I don't think he believes.
It seems like he's in review mode already, like how great a president he was. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what's going on with Bill Barr and all these he is trying to get to the point where he has to do as little pardoning as possible so that that they don't have the ability to go out and testify against him. Right? Like once you pardon somebody, I think are still subject to testifying, and they still go up on the problem is he's implicated in a lot of these things that they have done. So they need to wrap up all these investigations and do it in such a way that none of these loose ends are in jail. So like we get Cohen out, or to the extent that he is in jail, it has nothing to do with that, anything that could necessarily bring the president down after he's not president anymore. That seems to be the primary agenda of the Trump. And that's just a hedge, I guess. Meanwhile, the polling for Donald Trump is bad. And before you tell me about 2016, look, a lot can change, I guess, theoretically, but polling this far out, I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic. It's hard to know exactly. Polling this far out is usually relatively accurate. Last time around, the polling was actually on in terms of the national vote, a little bit off in some of the states, but for the most part, it was on. In Florida, in April 2020, it was 46% Biden, 43% Trump. Now it's 49% Biden, 40% Trump. If voting now, well, yeah, that's a Fox News poll. Fox News polls in Georgia show Biden and Trump neck and neck. Georgia. Fox News poll in North Carolina, neck and neck. Texas, neck and neck. I mean, technically in Georgia, Biden's lead is 2 percentage points. In Florida, it's 3 percentage points. Excuse me, he's up by 9 percentage points, like I say. He's got a 2-point lead in North Carolina. This is Biden. You know, these are within the margin of error. And 1 percentage point in Texas. These are all states that Donald Trump should be winning, right? And here is the Fox News crew trying to explain away. That's what we saw this week on cable news. Everybody trying to explain away what is right in front of their faces. Here's Fox News trying to explain away why Trump is doing badly in state polls. Never mind the national polls. In state polls conducted by Fox News.
Around Labor Day. That's when many everyday Americans start tuning in and turning their attention to the election. So that gives us a perspective of this poll, and I just wanted to take you inside those numbers. These are state polls, again, not a national poll. Let's bring in our panel. Jason Riley.
Just 1 second. That's Brett Baer, right? He knows he's talking to Donald Trump. And he's saying, don't worry, these polls don't mean anything until September. And to some extent, generally, that is true. But we have a rather higher level of intensity about paying attention to this election than in most. Not just because it's a general election, but because there's a lot of people who are very enthusiastic about voting against Donald Trump. But continue.
Our panel, Jason Riley, Wall Street Journal columnist, senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute, Mara Liasson, national political correspondent of National Public Radio, and Charlie Hurt, opinion editor for the Washington Times. Okay, Charlie, obviously it's June. We got a long way to go. And as I mentioned about the likely polls, they give you a better sense of state polls. But this is a snapshot in time, and it tracks with other polls we've seen in other battleground states.
Yeah, and I think you gave a very good rundown on why some of these polls this early out are to be taken with at least a slight grain of salt. And I think that those caveats become even greater when you look around at the environment that we're looking at right now, where you have, one of the reasons that people are reluctant to talk to pollsters has a lot to do with, the toxic environment that we're in, and so with that caveat, I think it's important to also note that the campaign has just begun. Obviously, as anybody would note, you want to be ahead of in the polls at all times. But the campaign has just begun, and when people look around and they see the lawlessness in the streets, and they see we've just been through a pandemic, an economic collapse, the likes of which this country has never seen before. It's going to be a full 3, 4, 5 month campaign before these issues start to get sorted out.
Jason, does the monument stuff and the violence that we've seen around some of this, does that start to turn some folks in the middle, do you think? What the president's saying about it, the lack of action on police reform on Capitol Hill, does that boomerang somehow against Democrats?
Yeah, no. That guy from Washington Times is really trying to come up with some reasons why that polls, they're discounting their own polls. I mean, really, really running hard on that. They all know that the president's watching, and they're just like, they're terrified that they're going to say something that we're just coming up. We're just going to make you feel comfortable. It's literally, they're doing that for one person. It's stunning. The idea that Trump is like off his game right now and is worried, I think, and maybe just exhausted. I think there's something to that. Listen to this in his town hall with Sean Hannity. He goes into his fake media bit, but it just doesn't. He needs new material. That's the problem. Play this.
There are beyond protesters, too, and we're not going to allow it. So we have many, many people under arrest, and we have some just from the other night in Washington, but I'm talking about in other states also.
You've offered help to New York?
Excuse me, by the way, and Washington is not D.C., not a state. Because if I say that, a little statement like that, sometimes I'll say, should I correct myself? Because the fake news will say, he thought D.C. was a state. So I just want to make that clear so they can't do it. Okay.
Always
they do
predicting
that. Oh, by the way, they do it all the time. You know what I mean?
Are
they not allowed to clap with coronavirus? He's got to do that sporadic clapping.
Those masks, they muffle up all the laughter.
Well, but the best part was just sort of like the four people going, okay.
Yeah, it's like the way Freebird, like, it's kind of a joke now.
Yeah, people are just like, it's not even worth like clapping ironically anymore.
Do the fake news. Do fake news.
All I got is Kung Flu now. That's all I got anymore.
The big thing they're trying to push on Fox News is the tearing down of statues. And it is true. The other day, they I think was it in Wisconsin?
Madison.
Yeah, protesters tore down a statue that I think was perfectly legitimate to have up. I think of an abolitionist, and there's definitely, I think, times where some folks are getting carried away. But in the main, I like it. I think there's a lot of statues that do need to come down that are they're just homages to some people who don't deserve that praise for what they did to get put up there. Was just a way of intimidating at the time that it was put up. As a way of intimidating black people. It's a way of saying to black people, like, you're not welcome here. Be careful. What's going on here is that the population of this city or town, state, wherever it is, we're celebrating guys who were fighting to maintain slavery. Period. Ainsley Earhart defends a Lincoln statue, not the Lincoln Memorial, but a statue that is where Lincoln is basically bestowing upon a black slave, sort of like in a godlike fashion, like he's bestowing humanity on him. And there is no sort of sense that the slave is anything other than chattel in this, in the statue. It's a bad statue. It is really, in many respects, presenting, the white savior story. But this is not somebody running into a burning house to save someone who's in a fire. It is someone who's lit the fire, the house on fire, and then saying, we'll let you out. Here is Ainsley Earhart trying to defend that statue.
The president and Nancy Pelosi are saying, let's have discussions about this. And
just the president said, break the law. Don't break stuff.
The president said, I can understand the controversy, but I can also understand the beauty in the one statue, the Abe Lincoln, the Emancipation statue, because he said the slave is getting up and the slave is coming out of that to join, for peace and for unity. So he says, I understand the beauty and the art of that, but maybe we take him down and we put him in a museum. Yeah. He said, let's just have a discussion.
Yeah, there he is. She's really trying to talk about the beauty there of the statue. She's finding her way.
The problem is, and I'll just share the image again so people see it, but it's also a falsification of history because, first,
back up. Put the image back up.
Okay, it was appearing just fine. Okay, yeah. The idea, and it's actually
put it back up. I can't see it now.
Oh, here it is. There it is. You got it.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it isn't the case. Whatever she means by coming out of that, slavery, I guess. The black people weren't always in slavery, even in America. For a while, they were indentured like white people were, and they could even gain their freedoms and be small-time landholders. And then a huge racist reaction happened that forced them down into that. So even that, it naturalizes the condition of them being oppressed, and has Lincoln being the only, here you go, I'll show you the way how to stand up on your feet. It's obscene.
It's obscene, and that was my point. It's they're pretending as if it's like they're in a house that's on fire and they're coming in to rescue them, as opposed to the white people were the ones who lit the house on fire. And then saying, well, we're going to let you out. I mean, that's the story. It's a bad depiction. And we as a society, these statues are up there to tell a story. And they have been placed there to tell a story. In some instances, it is to just intimidate. In others, it is to, aggrandize certain people. And there are better, it's why they have competitions for memorials and whatnot, is because some things articulate ideas that are superior to other ideas, and society in a day and age can make that decision. And that's what's happening. Call from a 847 area code. Who's this?
Hey, it's Josh from Chicago.
Josh from Chicago. What is on your mind?
Dude, I just ordered more of the CBD gummies. They're great.
They're great, right?
They're awesome.
CBD, this Sunset Lake CBD is cannot be beat.
Sunset Lake CBD. And hopefully I'll get apparently Jamie got the sweet packaging gift with her order using the code, so hopefully I get that as well. Fingers crossed.
We'll see.
I want to give an update. I want to talk about Kentucky, but I also want to give an update for the NYC DSA races that were happening.
Okay.
That were pretty good. Both AOC and Julia Salazar defended their seats and won re-election by about 60 points each, which is awesome. You love to see it. But we had 5 challengers, if you include 6, if you include Jamal Bowman, who got a late endorsement from DSA. He won his race, Bowman, but Jabari Brisport in State Senate District 25 appears to, right now, he has a 4,000 vote lead over Tremaine Wright. Obviously, absentee ballots are still coming in, but I think this is it's never say never. Obviously, with absentee ballots with Tiffany Caban last year, we saw how absentee ballots can be used against progressives. But this looks pretty safe. That leap looks pretty safe, and Jabari is taking on a pro-charter school opponent in Tremaine Wright. And also it looks like Zoran Mamdini is going to win his state assembly race in the 36th district, which is in Astoria. He has about a 400 vote lead or 600 vote lead, but apparently absentee ballots, most of them requested in that district were from younger people, which is always a good sign.
Yep.
And it looks like Walter Mosley might lose to Farah Soufant Forrest. She is down by 600 votes right now, but there were 22,000 absentee ballots requested in that district, and a lot of them came from the part of the district that Jabari won. So Mosley was basically a bagman for the real estate industry in the 57th Assembly District, and we're going to get a tenant organizer who's endorsed by DSA. And I remain cautiously optimistic. In 51, Felix Ortiz, who will probably be indicted next year on corruption charges, has about a 300 vote lead against Marcella Météance. There's about 8,000 absentee ballots. Unfortunately, Marcella had another quote. I used air quotes around the progressive, around calling Catherine Walsh a progressive. She's more of a liberal. She had another challenger who did not drop out of the race, even though she was pressured to do so because the demographics of that district do not favor a white candidate winning. Right now, Marcella's down by 300 votes. Catherine Walsh got 1,200 votes, so that's definitely a spoiler.
Right.
But people should donate to Marcella and Farah because they're going to need legal aid, especially if they're going to go up against the Board of Elections in these recounts. These establishment candidates have a lot of access to resources that they can use to muscle their way to victory in these races. But it's pretty promising. Like this is really promising, and really it shows DSA's strength, especially because Working Families Party backed a few of these candidates that ran against. So,
well, Josh, when the results are in, when final results are in, call back in and let us know what's going on. And also
Can I quickly talk about Kentucky for a second?
Yeah. Send us an email too, though, at Majority Reporters with links to both those candidates who may need some money for the recount. Yeah. Quick on Kentucky.
So Booker has I think it's anywhere between a 2,500 and a 3,000 vote lead right now.
Right.
Depending on who you're looking at. But looking at where he's getting his votes, if the absentee balloting holds in Louisville and he wins by a 70, because he won by a 70 to 20 margin in Lexington, he won by an 80 to 16 margin in Louisville, he won by a huge margin in Bowling Green, and he's winning the suburbs in that area. I don't see how Amy McGrath is going to pull this out if the absentee ballots are close to that.
I agree, but
who knows? Never know. But
you never know.
It's reason to be optimistic.
Indeed. Appreciate the call, Josh.
Yep.
Thanks. Calling from a 727 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Is this me?
Yes, it is you. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Sorry, my name's Tommy. I'm calling from Florida.
Tommy from Florida. What's on your mind?
Well, I've been listening for a while, and I don't even know if this is really the place for to be asking this, but I'm just kind of hoping that maybe you could provide me with some hope. Over the past few months, I've seen, I'm a political science major. You've seen all of the polarization that's been going on. And with everything that's happened with the riots, I'm just thinking, is there really any way for us to have any political change without violence? I'm not advocating for violence, but I'm just saying, are we ever going to see any real change for anything without this action happening.
What kind of change do you want?
Well, I'm a progressive and I don't advocate for violence. I'm hoping to see things like Medicare for all and these other notions. But because we're so polarized, is it possible for us to get any kind of voting reform, any kind of human rights for everybody without people acknowledging that even human rights are being challenged?
I think some measure of it. I definitely think that the potential for unrest and an uprising tends to focus the mind of.
It has to be focused towards something like a strike, though. I think in order for these things, I don't think violence in and of itself.
I don't think
it needs to be more focused.
I don't think wilding or something is, but I think general unrest is not unhelpful. Mm-hmm. I am with you. I don't like the idea of violence. I think most of it's been perpetrated by the police at this point. But general unrest, I think, is healthy. But I think ultimately, that energy going into something like labor actions is going to be even more powerful. But we'll see. It's, day to day right now, as far as I can tell. Appreciate the phone call. Let's take another one. It's Friday, 859. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Oz from Peasant Media from Covington, Kentucky.
Oz from Covington, Kentucky. Yeah, back off. Yeah, back off your phone. Just back off your phone just a little bit. Yeah.
So I was helping the Booker campaign, and I'm in northern Kentucky, and it looks like he won my county, which is a pretty big deal. But anyways, the reason I'm calling is because it's hard not to get emotional about all this. And I'm in recovery, and I'm an ex-con. I've done time, and I've had boots on my neck before, and I've seen how routine it is. So all this stuff triggered me.
Yeah.
And so I went to the protest in Cincinnati and got shot with pepper bullets and tear gas, and saw how things were going down there, and saw the cops in the plain clothes.
Hey, will you just do me a favor?
Whatever they are.
Just back off your phone just a little bit
mercenary.
more. You got to back off your phone just a little bit.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah, it's just breaking up a little bit. Yeah, just thanks.
Yeah. So, I've got pictures too of my bruises and stuff from getting shot with those. But the cops were escalating, instigating, and there's people in the protest dressed as protesters, like dressed like Antifa, that were definitely had 3%er tattoos. I can recognize somebody who's a skinhead or an Aryan or whatever, because I've had to live with them,
right.
I had to deal with it. And they're definitely coming to these protests and agitating. And, I think all, the cops, not all of them, but Trump definitely from the start, the alt-right, they wanted a civil war. That's what they want. That's their agenda. And that's what Trump wants, I believe. Anything to consolidate power and keep him in office, because he knows, he's in trouble if he doesn't get reelected.
I think he would do just about anything to keep himself in power. I don't know, I don't know if he's thinking.
I definitely think the cops were the ones putting those pallets of bricks out.
Yeah, I think a lot of those have been explained, to be honest with you, but that you're in cities, there are places where there's occasionally bricks, but it's conceivable. I find it hard to believe that there hasn't been some measure of what they call agent provocateurs, I guess. I mean, that the image of that guy, that image of that guy, that image in that of that guy with the all in black with the umbrella smashing those windows at the sporting goods store, that to me seems incredibly suspicious.
Oh yeah. Well, these people, they wear that tactical paintball gear. They're easy to spot. If you go to any big protest, they're easy to spot. They're always there. And they're the same type of people that are involved with Blackwater and Prince and Veritas and O'Keefe. I mean, they're Steve Bannon gladiator school LARPers is what they are.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think there's certainly some of them out there. I don't doubt it. Listen, I appreciate the phone call.
I mean, one last thing. I swear, I'm telling you, QAnon is Steve Bannon. Look into it.
All right, I will do. That would not surprise me at all. Frankly, I would not be surprised. I think, he's the one who elevated Gamergate, remember?
Yeah.
So he certainly understands the value of that type of online, I don't know what you would call it, but here is Larry Kudlow. We're in the middle of a surge of the first wave, right? In certain parts of the country. Here's Larry Kudlow, famous for saying in February, we've got this thing buttoned up. We're doing great out there. I'm not saying it's totally gone, but we've got it all buttoned up. We've got it contained. That was 115,000 deaths ago. I have a feeling that we may end up pointing to this moment again in 3 to 6 months and going this is the second time he took a bite at that apple. Here's Larry Kudlow. We're going to have some tiny little things, but we don't have to worry about them. Overall, I think it's going to be fine.
In the U.S. yesterday, new cases.
Well, look at
just come a little closer to the microphone.
The growth rate is only up a little bit. We're like 1.5% growth. That number was 45% months ago.
The highest number since 2 months ago.
Yeah, but way below the original peak back in.
Still feel there's no second wave coming?
We do, and you didn't hear the interview, but there's 6 or 8 or 9 states that have massive declines in case rates. I don't have time to go through with you. I'm sorry. The fatality rate continues to fall. We don't see any upturn in the fatality rate. I think we're going to have hotspots. No question. We have them now in, Texas and parts of the South, the Carolinas, Arizona. We just have to live with that. That's, I think, part of the story.
Yeah. I like how it's like, yeah, we're down. Well, actually, a record in 2 months. Well, yeah, or whatever. It doesn't matter. We're just going to keep saying this no matter what anyways. So there's really no point in getting into the details of this because this is going to be, we have some hot spots like, spots like Texas and Arizona, Florida, little spots. And it is true that, look, that's the nature of a wave, right? A wave is at a peak and then it goes like this and then it goes back up like that. And that's the wave is going across the country. That's basically it. So yes, there's a decline in the Northeast, in New York, Massachusetts, because it was massive there. And it was the first place it was there, and everybody got some measure of warning. Because it starts, obviously, in the most international city you have. People got some measure of a warning. And then some states completely ignored those warnings. That moment with Kudlow, I think we'll also look back to at one point. Nevertheless, you got, is it Dan Patrick or it's Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick? This is the guy who basically at the beginning of this said, I personally would rather die than have to have my grandkids wear a mask or something like that. Still alive. And it feels like in Texas, there might be a lot more opportunity for him to actually show just how committed he is to not locking down things. But here he is. Last night says the state will not take a step back. Tell me what happened today, Matt. Well, let's listen to this and then we'll come back with that. Go ahead.
Will Texas in any way, shape, or form, Dan Patrick, shut down because of this spike? Will it?
Well, Governor Abbott was very clear in his announcement today that we put a pause on elective surgeries to make sure we have plenty of room. But we're not stepping backwards. And our pause button that we've taken here, Laura, we're already 75% open in our restaurants, 50% in almost every business. People are out there and about. It's one of the reasons that cases are up with young people. They actually, about Memorial Day, said, I've had enough living with my parents. I'm going out. And they're socializing. And we wish they would social distance as they do that. But that's been the big reason for the spike. And just to close the loop on the ICU cases, when they say in Texas, well, it's 95% full, that's with non-COVID patients. So as those cases end, we have plenty of room, plenty of room for COVID patients.
Now, you can believe this guy if you want. He said this last night. Texas is no way we're not taking a step back. And then less than 12 hours later, do you want to pull up any of the headlines on this, Brendan? Governor Greg Abbott orders Texas bars to close again and restaurants reduce 50% occupancy. And that happened about an hour ago. So I don't know.
I wonder what happened between.
God, those are really rough 12 hours. Maybe you should call the governor. I love how Laura Ingraham is laughing at the prospect of, like, our beds are all filled up, but it's not with COVID patients. You know what? First off, we know that hospitalizations are way up for COVID in Texas, but that is also, I mean, it's relevant, but that's not the issue. The issue is there's no room. You're going to have more patients. Doesn't matter who's in those beds. If you don't have room for more patients that are coming because of COVID, then people are going to get more ill. Some will die. Some will just get illnesses that will plague them for the rest of their lives. They bathe in this ignorance. They bathe in it. They bathe in it, and then they spurt it out their mouth like they're kids at like a wave pool. It's unbelievable. It's just, there's been nothing like this. I really don't like, and it's not like, like the first round, it was bizarre, right? When they're acting like this in March, when Trump is acting like this in February. But then you see 115,000 people dead, and then Laura Ingram's still laughing at the prospect that, like, you're having a wave there. It's, man, it's nuts. Let's go to the phone. Calling from an 850 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? Jesus. 850. Hello. I don't know what's going on with your phone, dude, but we're about to hang up. 850.
No, please don't. On.
All right. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
This is Will. I'm calling from the heart of darkness, man. It's Florida's 1st congressional district. That's Matt Gates' district.
Oh, geez. So down near like Pensacola, is that right?
I'm actually in San Rosa Beach, which is a little bit to the west of Panama City Beach.
Okay, fair enough. What's on your mind?
COVID, man. We're having a COVID freak out here. This is like a big vacation area for, the Southeast. And we're having a record year in spite of the fact that we're having an outbreak of COVID. Nobody's wearing masks. It's nuts. In fact, this is one of those places, I guess it's like one of the most conservative places in America.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Matt Gaetz got out there. He was wearing the gas mask. Remember, that's how he welcomed COVID, was, joking about wearing a gas mask. So you're getting a record.
That was right before somebody here died, too, and I actually knew that person.
Well, so what's your sense? Is it are the local numbers going up?
Yes, and they're really bad about reporting it here. I live in a county that only has 22 ICU beds for the whole county. Right now, there's only 6 of the 22 available. We're only supposed to have officially like 200 and some odd cases, but you cannot get a test in this county. If you try to get a test, they send you either to Bay County or Escambia County, the next county over. You cannot actually get a test in this county. I live about a mile and a half from a hospital, a Sacred Heart hospital that has given 11 tests, every single one of them positive, 100% positivity rate.
Wow. So you guys could be just like literally days away from breaching that ICU capacity.
Oh yeah. They're already, sending. They're already. I had just broke my arm and had to get, surgery to get a metal plate put on it to get it reattached and all that stuff, and was praying that I made it in under the wire before they shut everything down from COVID again. It's getting ready to happen any day now.
Hey, well, appreciate the update, Will. Hang in there. Stay safe.
Oh, I'll be doing my best. I'm the only one. I'm the only sane person here. There's me and Bo of the fifth column actually doesn't live far from me. There's the two of us. That's it. In this whole area, me, my wife, my kids, and Bo of the fifth column, and his family.
I got a good friend who lives down in that area, and he tells me, and I can say based upon what he's told me that you're not exaggerating. I appreciate the call.
I'm your age, and I've lived here, most of my life, and it has been that way my whole life. I have been the lone torch of sanity amongst madness for years, and I refuse to move because I'm not giving in, man. This is my home, and these crazy fucks. I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up.
All right. Well, hang in there, Will. Appreciate the phone call. Time for another call. Calling from a 908 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Sam. Mary in New Jersey.
Mary in New Jersey. What's on your mind, Mary?
I wanted to talk to you and your listeners about what's going on with our progressive Democrats in New Jersey. We haven't voted yet. Election day was postponed to July 7th. And then everybody in the state who's a registered voter got a mail-in ballot. So you have to get your ballot in the mail by July 7th. And the thing is, the Democratic machine has split our ticket. So it's not a simple ballot. Bernie is still on the ballot. He's not running for president, but you can vote for his delegates. But you have to go all the way out in ballot Siberia to column D to vote for Bernie delegates. And then you have to come back to column A, which is the not me, us Democrats. And that's our progressive ticket. It's headed by Larry Hamm, who is attempting to unseat Cory Booker. He's running for Senate. Booker is too close to Wall Street, gets too much money from big corporations, pushes charter schools and vouchers. And I don't know if you know anything about Larry Hamm, but he's been a community organizer for decades. One of the founders of the People's Organization for Progress, born in Newark, graduated from Princeton. He ran the Bernie campaign in New Jersey. And if you've ever heard him speak, he's a very fiery speaker. So he's ahead of the not me, us ticket in column A. So we're asking people to vote for Bernie and D and then come back and vote for the whole line under column A, which is, and then under column A will be all those the local and county and state candidates, and that will vary by district.
And when do you need to get that ballot in by?
July 7th. You've got about a week and a half.
All right.
It has to be postmarked by July 7th.
Mary, thanks.
These are the not me, us, our revolution type Democrats.
All right. Appreciate the call. Thank you, Mary.
Okay. Have a good one.
It'll be interesting to see what happens in New Jersey. We've got Romanoff running against Hickenlooper in Colorado. Hopefully, maybe he can pull off something there. That would be awesome. There is still, and the idea that you could knock off Elliot Engel right, indicates to me that there is still an inability by some Democrats, aided by just centrists in general, who are deluding themselves that there's nothing to worry about, that nothing has changed, that Justice Democrats has no power, they don't have the ability to run any campaigns that are successful, that there isn't a sea change out there with their voters. Where do these delusional, or just it's denial in many respects? Here is from Morning Joe, Willie Geist and Casey Hunt, basically just promoting this notion of they think if they don't promote the narrative that I don't know what the theory is here. Like, I don't know how diluted you can get and sort of read this in a different way, but check this out.
For who will take on Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell in November is too close to call right now between Amy McGrath and Charles Booker. McGrath leads by about 2,000 votes at this point. They're still counting. In New York, 2 Democratic incumbent seats could be in jeopardy in the state's 12th congressional district primary. Democratic incumbent Carolyn Maloney, who chairs the Oversight Committee, is narrowly leading challenger Shiraj Patel. And in New York's 16th congressional district, Democratic primary, longtime Congressman Elliot Engel, who chairs the Foreign Affairs Committee, trails progressive Jamal Bowman there. Casey, what are the surprises you see in these races and Democratic races across the country last night?
So I think it's tempting to read this as, progressives have, voters are looking for somebody that's more progressive, that's not part of the establishment. I think it's a little bit of a mistake to look at it that way. I think it's a rejection of the calcification of our politics, of people that have been in office for decades. In many cases, the Kentucky race is fascinating, and we still have a lot of counting to do in that race. It really could right now go either way. But the turnout in that primary election shattered previous records.
We don't need to hear anymore.
Charles,
the idea, just contemplate this for a moment. You have Mondaire Jones, who wins in New York's, what is that, the 17th, I think it is?
Yeah.
Or
17th.
Nita Lowey, who he was running against, who was a longtime congresswoman, she retired. So everybody there represents new blood, as it were, as opposed to calcification, but the most progressive candidate wins. In Kentucky, you don't have an incumbent, and Booker comes in with a huge deficit in terms of money. And we don't know if he's going to win yet. It appears that he has a very good chance, but just that it's this close. And what's the distinction? Amy McGrath is not an incumbent. As far as I know, she hasn't won anything. He actually is a sitting politician in the State House. What's the difference then? Well, look at their policies. She was tackling a centrist route. He is for Medicare for all. He's for the whole kit and caboodle of progressive policies. Bowman knocks off Engel. There was other candidates. Bowman, arguably the most progressive of all of them, certainly got the most progressive endorsements. They desperately, and I know you think that, that's, whoever to talk, Brendan was saying that's a tautology, progressive versus the establishment. Maybe this was just a pushback on calcification. She's basically trying to say, this is not about ideology. There's nothing ideological about what we're seeing here. It's all just about, we want fresh blood. But of course, that story doesn't hold up, because you don't have examples. I guess you could say, well, no, you don't have examples of anybody who is fresh blood, but on the conservative end of the spectrum in these races winning. It's just not happening. Or even the establishment perspective of winning. This is not happening. And there's a real
in the case
denial.
of Mondaire Jones, like, he beat this guy, Adam Scheifler, who is a DA or, a prosecutor from California whose dad was a billionaire pharma guy. And he beat Evelyn Farkas, who was part of the NSA under Obama. So, I mean, those are pretty good beatbacks against the establishment in and of itself in the Democratic Party.
Well, I mean, it is, but I don't know that people perceive Farkas as an establishment figure. I mean, she's trying to make this as if like that it was about the calcification. Well, yeah, the calcification. Well, these people aren't calcified. They're not in office. And they lost big time to the more progressive candidate. They're desperate to deny the ideological shift that has happened in the Democratic Party, that is happening. And of course, these things, they don't happen all in one day, but it's happening. And their denial, I don't think, is going to make any difference. There's just not enough people who watch Morning Joe, who vote in the Democratic primary anywhere to make a difference. But that denial is, in part, not just about what's happening electorally, but in terms of their own relevance. All right, one final phone call for the week, and then we'll get out of here. I can already hear my kids screaming. Calling from a 570 area code. You are the final caller of the week. Who's this?
Thank you, Sam. This is Dave from Scranton.
Dave from Scranton.
Yeah, I understand Brooks's point when it comes to certain YouTube commentators. It's all about the clicks. I used to think that being a right-wing commentator was the easiest job in the world. Now I think it's dumb grifters who repeat Joe Rogan, saying that Joe Rogan won't lie to you, to trust in Joe Rogan, repeating a debunked story about Dr. Fauci and masks. But, when it
Who
comes
did that?
to
Wait,
messaging
who did
from
that? Who's doing that on the left? Nobody.
Right. But, when it comes
No,
from
who is,
messaging...
Honestly, is there somebody saying that?
Yes. I mean, I could give the names if you would like.
I'm curious.
It was Jimmy Dore and Kyle Kulinski, repeating the same debunked story about Dr. Fauci that, Rogan, who keeps on talking about masks not working and that people are lying about masks and, the governor of California is lying and they didn't know what they were talking about from the beginning.
And wait, so you're telling me that Jimmy and Kyle were saying that that masks don't work or what?
Right, that Dr. Fauci lied about the mask and everything else.
Well, Fauci did lie about the masks as being ineffective because they wanted to protect the supply of masks, which I think was a mistake.
Right.
A big mistake.
Yeah,
actually.
I mean, I read that that story has been debunked, that the quote was taken out of context.
It may have been, but it's. I think I haven't dug into it, but my sense is that yes, that they were concerned about hoarding, and they didn't. Right. They didn't tell people to wear masks, and what they really should have done is said wear homemade masks. If you could tell people. Go ahead.
I've heard that story too, but it seems to be there's conflicting stories on that, but. I don't know. Just to say that Joe Rogan wouldn't lie to you and to trust in Joe Rogan would be bad enough.
I don't know how, frankly, rigorous Joe Rogan's research is. Let's put it that way.
Right. Well, when it comes to messaging on the left or Democrats, I think we need to be clear. Americans are fickle and simple. Okay. When it comes to defunding the police, 80% of Americans want more police funding. And when it takes more time to explain what defunding the police or abolishing the police means than the actual systematic problems or what happened in Camden, how they fixed their police department, that's a problem. I think you could also say the same thing when it comes to gun control. I think Beto lost in Texas because he went hard on gun control. And I think it was mostly grandstanding from him. Okay. The USA is not going to ban guns. And it's not because of the NRA or the Second Amendment or even lobbyists, but military contracts aren't enough to keep these gun companies in business. they need civilian sales. And since the U.S. is always preparing for war, you know, we always need the tooling and the factories and everything to keep, you know, guns available for the military in this country. So, I mean, I think we need to be careful with our messaging. Like, and Biden hasn't been that great on guns, and we know he's not really going to do much on gun control. And I just don't want to see, you know, we lose the election being on how important this is when it comes to something that he's just grandstanding on.
I mean, look, I think I don't think anybody's going to lose an election on the Second Amendment. I really don't at this point. I also think that if you want to assess the efficacy, I mean, I agree with you. I don't think defund the police is a precise technical term, but in terms of its political value, the Democrats today just passed a police reform bill. And now it's not as extensive as people want, but this is action, that is coming as a function of people calling for the defunding of police. And, like I say, I don't think it's the most precise term, but in terms of its political efficacy, you're seeing it out there. I mean, and so, get out there, lead the movement, and, come up with better terminology if you want. But right now it's hard to argue with success. So, but
right.
Appreciate the call.
That's correct. And,
right.
Thank you. And I hope my phone sounded better this time.
Sounds great. Appreciate the call.
Thank you.
This is also funny. Apparently funny. The federal government, when they came in with testing services for the states, they said, you have to basically sign something. You will not ask us to extend it. Just now, Health and Human Services has reversed itself, and it has extended support for Texas testing sites for 2 weeks. I have a prediction. They're going to end up extending it again. Donald Trump is worried about Texas now, and Texas is going through a crap show. I think we're going to have a real problem there, folks. I mean, it's disturbing. But if you're in Texas, wear a mask, be careful. Same with any of these other states in the Southwest, or the South and the Southwest for that matter. Have a good weekend. Stay safe. Brendan, Matt, good job this week. Thanks, guys. Folks, we'll see you on Monday.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the lie bar. But finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light shining bright. I guess somewhere the choice was made for the option where you don't get paid.